Welcome to Amy Learns to Cook. On the show today, we're going to do a continuation of the Ultimate Stand Mixer Challenge, and this time it's going to be between the KitchenAid Artisan 5-quart mixer and the Breville Scraper Mixer Pro. We're going to test these things on many different areas, including doing meringues with the whip, doing cookies with the paddle, and doing dough with the dough hook. So join me for an Ultimate Stand Mixer Challenge between the KitchenAid Artisan and the Breville Scraper Mixer Pro. So I've previously done a few tests on stand mixers. I did a video where I tested inexpensive stand mixers under $100, and we crowned the Hamilton Beach stand mixer as the winner. I also did an Ultimate Stand Mixer Challenge where we put the KitchenAid Professional 600 against the Bosch Universal. And I crowned the KitchenAid the king of mixers, and Eric crowned the Bosch the king of mixers. So today we're doing a whole new challenge between two mixers that are direct competitors of each other. In this side we have the KitchenAid Artisan. This is KitchenAid's most popular mixer. It's a 5-quart mixer. It's 325 watts and it is a tilt head. This is a bestseller in the mixer world, right? So we're going to look at the KitchenAid against a newcomer on the market. This is the Breville Scraper Mixer Pro. It is 550 watts of power. Now, they're not exactly the same watts, but this is Breville's competitor to the KitchenAid Artisan. And it's a little bit more watts, and we'll see if that really impacts it at all. So let's put these mixers to the test. So for the categories, we are using the same criteria that we use to judge in the other challenges that we've done for stand mixers. So we are going to be looking at the overall look and feel of the mixers. This includes, we're going to do a sound test, but we're just going to look at the features and the overall look and feel. We are going to look at the whip attachment. We're going to be making a meringue. We're going to be looking at the paddle attachment. This time we're going to be making a batch of Snickerdoodle cookies. And we are going to be looking at the dough hook. We are going to be doing just a basic bread dough. And then we're going to crown our winner. So let's get testing. So one of the tests we figure we would do in terms of the overall look and feel is to listen to the sound of both mixers, because we had done a quick segment in one of our videos that we tested the Pro 600 against the commercial KitchenAid, and the commercial KitchenAid was significantly quieter. So we're going to test out the sound of both of these to see if there's a difference, because it does go towards, you know, the usability and the comfort of the mixer, if you will. So this is the KitchenAid, so we're going to go ahead and fire this up and take a listen to how it sounds. Okay, now let's do the Breville. And the KitchenAid. So I don't know about you, but the sound test, definitely the Breville wins. The KitchenAid sounds a little windy. The Breville sounds smoother. I definitely say, in terms of the sound, the Breville wins. So the overall look and feel of the KitchenAid. The KitchenAid really hasn't changed. It has been like this for years, and it is just a classic look to it. One great thing is it is available in so many different colors, and it just makes me jealous, right? Because when I pick one color, I'm then like, oh, I want another color, right? So it just has so many options that are available. You know, it's the classic mixer. You tilt it up like this. All your attachments fit here. This one here, I have the optional ceramic bowl. There's just so much that you can use with the KitchenAid. It has this hub here, and there's all kinds of attachments you can get for it. You can get a grinders, you can get shredders, you can get a food processor, you can get a spiralizer. I mean, it's just very, very versatile. The overall look and feel, I say, is excellent. It's a classic, right? And I definitely give the KitchenAid an A. So this is the Breville Scraper Mixer Pro, and it is a newcomer on the market. It's been around for a couple years, I think. And its claim to fame is it is trying to compete with the Artisan. And it is also a tilt head mixer. One of the things I can say about the overall look and feel can be expressed by one of my friends on Facebook. I posted a picture of this when I did an unboxing, and someone posted, I won't give her name, but she called this mixer sexy, right? And that means that I think it's more of a refined look than the KitchenAid. What I really like about it is I do like the tilt head. It has a handle here. You push this button, and it actually has a lock here, so you don't have to worry about it falling. The KitchenAid doesn't have a lock here. It also has, you know, the controls are a little bit different. It does have the counter. I don't really use the counter, so that doesn't really make a difference to me. I really think that as an alternative, if you want to get away from the look of the traditional KitchenAid, the Breville definitely offers you a sexy alternative, right? Only problem is it comes in a limited colors. It only comes, in the US, I've only seen it in the silver color. I've seen people do videos on YouTube from overseas, and I've seen a black one and I've seen a white one, but the only one I've ever seen at retail here in the US is this silver color. It comes with a very limited amount of attachments. Of course, you automatically get the dough hook, the wire beater, the flat paddle, and you also get the scraper paddle with it. Also available is an ice cream maker and a scraper whip, actually, that KitchenAid doesn't have. And it comes with its own bowl. The bowl is sort of shaped like this. But other than that, there's not a lot of attachments to the Breville. It doesn't have a hub on it to make it more versatile. I mean, this is what you get. And if you don't want to get a bunch of attachments, that would be, fine. That is a limitation of this mixer, though. I really like it. I think it's a very nice looking mixer. It has a lot of nice features with the handles. It has handles up here to move it. But I do think that the KitchenAid offers more versatility in terms of the attachments that are available on the KitchenAid are just unbelievable compared to the Breville. But it is a very nice looking mixer. So in that regard, I'm going to give the Breville an A-. Next up is the whip attachment. And we have that installed here on the Breville. We've got our whip on here, and we're going to make some meringue. So we're going to go ahead and put 4 egg whites in here. This is actually pasteurized eggs. If that's a concern for you with meringue, go ahead and use pasteurized. You don't necessarily have to. If you're making a lemon meringue pie, you're going to cook those off a little bit anyway. So we're going to go ahead and put this in here, and we're going to we're going to take this to a foam. And that was really fast, really fast. So we're gonna put a half a teaspoon of cream of tartar in here, and we're gonna take it to soft peaks. And it looks like we're pretty much at soft peaks. Yep. And now we're gonna put in the sugar. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. And we have 1.5 cups of sugar. Woo! And let's see where we are. See how that stays up like that? That is stiff peaks. So it whipped it up really fast and it did a good job. I give it an A. So it's time for the KitchenAid. Let's make our meringue. So we have 4 egg whites that I'm putting in here. And we're using the little ceramic bowl. We're going to bring this to a foam. Okay, so we're going to put a half a teaspoon of cream of tartar in, and we're going to bring this to soft peaks. I believe we're at soft peaks, yes. So let's put our sugar in, and we're going to bring this to stiff peaks. And we're at stiff peaks. So the KitchenAid also gets an A. So we are using the Flex Edge beater and we are making our Snickerdoodles. So in here I have 2 softened sticks of butter, and we're going to go ahead and cream that with 1.5 cups of sugar. Woo! So let's see how the Breville does. And to cream it, we need this to go for about 2 minutes or so. So it's fully incorporated and it's going to get nice and fluffy. So one of the things I see right away is there's quite a bit of shakeage in this thing. The head is shaking a little bit and sort of the whole thing. I kind of feel like maybe it might move on me. We'll see how it does when the flour gets in here. The scraper is doing a fairly decent job. It does seem like it's pushing a little bit up here at the top. It seems like it's pushing a little bit here. So we'll go ahead and scrape this down. This is what our scraper beater is supposed to be doing for us. But we'll scrape that down and see if it happens again. So the scraper, it does a fairly decent job. I don't think it's actually scraping. Like, there's like, it seems like there's a layer of this on it, on the edges, that it's just not getting. So go ahead and scrape this down again. And we're going to put our eggs in one at a time. Seems like the head of the mixer is settled down a little bit when I have it on lower speed. Before I had it on Breville's recommended creaming speed, and it seemed to jump a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and scrape it down a little again because it's not really, for some reason it keeps giving me a little bit of an edge here that's not incorporating that well. So we're going to mix our dry ingredients. So here I have 2 3/4 cup flour. I'm going to put a half a teaspoon of salt in there. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar. Go ahead and give that a whisk real quick. And let's see how the Breville does. I'm going to start it down on low because I don't want it flying in my face. We could use there is a pouring shield that helps with some of that. It actually comes with this. And I hear a little bit of geary sound in there. If I turn it up at all, look at the head on it. If I keep it low, if I turn it up, I wouldn't really turn it higher than that. It's just, this is just, that's like the beginning, the first speed, second speed. If I put it on the third, of course, it seems like it's all bound up on the mixer, on the paddle here. So let me get that off of there. Let's try that again. That's just rocking just a little more than I would like to see. And it seems like the Flex Edge beater is holding on to a lot of the batter more than I would want to see. I have to really turn it up to fling that off of there. And to do that, then we're getting a lot of movement in this mixer. I'm actually pretty disappointed in that. I did a fairly decent job. It rocked a little bit too much for me. And I did have to scrape it. And it seemed like at the lower speed it was binding up here. Like maybe this is just not shaped well enough to keep the dough moving around. It seemed to clog in here when I had it at too low a speed. And when I tried to turn it up at all to get it moving, it was rocking pretty good. I think I'll give it a B. Next up, we're testing the paddle, and this is the KitchenAid. We're going to make some Snickerdoodles. Now, I have a video of these Snickerdoodles if you just want to see, how to make these on a, more in-depth level, but we're just going to do it really quick here. So in the bowl of our KitchenAid, we have 2 sticks of butter that I've softened, and we're going to go ahead and cream that with 1.5 cups of sugar. And we have our Flex Edge beater on here. And to cream it, you really need to let it go. You need to let it go 2 or 3 minutes until it's nice and fluffy. And I would say the Flex Beater is doing a pretty good job. I don't really feel like I have to scrape it down at all, maybe a little bit. The mixer is slightly shaking a little bit, not overly terrible, but it's doing a good job. So we're going to add 2 eggs, one at a time. And the Flex Edge beater is really making a difference. And we're going to combine that. And that looks pretty good. Now we're going to put in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And the Flex Edge is great. I mean, I haven't had to stop and scrape or anything. I'm getting a little bit up here, but not too bad. Let's see how this is doing on the scraping. Just a little here, not much. Looks really good. I say the scraper paddle is really pretty good. And we're going to go ahead and lower this down, and we're going to start our dry ingredients. So we're going to do this low, otherwise this is going to shoot us right in the face. So this is our dough, and the mixer's shaking a little bit on the head of it. Not overly horrible, but it's shaking a little bit. So you wouldn't really mix it as much as I did. I just kind of wanted to see how the mixer was going to behave. There was a little bit of shakeage. I think if I had like a double batch, it might struggle a little bit there. It handled it in terms of the motor. It's just a little bit shaking on the... See how we got a little bit of jump on there? Wondering how that would do on a double batch. That would concern me a little bit. I don't think it would ruin the mixer, but there was a little bit of jump on it. So this is our batter. It's nicely combined. All you have to do is roll these cookies up in little balls and put a little cinnamon sugar on them, bake them off, and you're gonna have some delicious cookies. So my rating of the Artisan for the cookies. You know, it worked really well. The scraper beater worked very well. I think that is a definite good investment. I really think that this kind of small of a mixer, if you really want to do larger batches, you're going to have a little bit of trouble with it. It shaked a little bit, and if this was a double batch, I think it really would have given us a little bit of bucking to it. But overall, I think it's good. I think it did a great job, and you know, that's my only issue with it. So I give it a B+. It's bread time. So we have the Breville up first, and I'm going to be using a double recipe of my bread machine dinner rolls. We're going to try it out in the mixer, and I'm going to bake them off and make some hot dog buns and some hamburger buns. It's going to be a lot of dough. The reason I'm doubling it is it's a 3-cup recipe, which is basically a 2-pound recipe. There's a recipe in the KitchenAid manual that is a 5 to 6 cup recipe. So we're going with that, right? So when we double it, it's going to be a 6-cup recipe. And if KitchenAid says it can do a 6-cup recipe, and we're doing a real test with the Breville against that, But Breville's got to do the same thing, right? So let's go for it. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in some vegetable oil. And I have a half a cup of vegetable oil. This is going to make a lot of hamburger buns. We're also going to put in 2 cups of 110-degree water. And you want the water hot because it needs to dissolve the yeast, but you don't want it too hot, otherwise it will kill the yeast. We're also going to put in 2 teaspoons of salt. We're going to put in 4 tablespoons of sugar. And now we're going to put in our flour. So we're going to be putting in 6 cups of flour. We're going to start off, I'm going to put in a cup or 2, then we're going to put in our yeast, and then we'll start putting in the rest of it. So we'll go ahead and turn this on. I'm going to put it on pretty low, and what I did is I just put the pouring shield on here so I don't get flour puffed all over the place. So let's go ahead and put in 2 cups. And then we'll put our yeast in. Okay, so I have 4½ teaspoons of yeast here. Let me push that down. So we put in 2 cups of flour. So let's keep going with the flour. We're at 3 cups. And this is 4 cups. And 5 cups. Let's see how he's doing so far. So, I mean, we are getting a little workage on the head here, but it's not horrible. It looks like it's awfully sticky, so we are going to go ahead and put in our other cup. And we'll see how she does here. One thing, I'm getting a little bit of a pause when it comes around and the dough is hitting the side of the bowl. We're getting a little bit of a pause. Well, I might have to, let's see how this is. It's a little sticky on the inside. It's not throwing the dough around really like it should. Take it off of there just to get some little bit more action on it. I mean, the head of the thing is grinding a little bit. And I don't see a lot. I'm not really super impressed on how it's working the dough. I mean, it's almost like it's just spinning it around. We'll see how it goes and see if it releases it. I know that the dough hook is moving around inside there, but I'm not getting a lot of change in terms of the position of it. Ultimately, what we want is a nice smooth dough ball. rocking around with the head on this, you will get that a little bit on a tilt head. It does seem like it's, you know, it's a little too much, but it's not out of the ordinary to get a little bit of rockage on there. It just seems like it's really kind of working it. In terms of the kneading action, I mean, it just, to me, it doesn't seem like it's kneading that well. It's not moving around and changing positions at all, really. Let's take a look at it. Let's get a board and knead it out and see how this looks. So here's our dough ball, and it's pretty good. It didn't knead it, like, I didn't want to leave it in there long enough to get a nice smooth dough ball out of it, because I really think that long term it's gonna really work that mixer a little too much. The dough is nice. It's not great. It's going to take some kneading to get it nice and smooth, but it's okay. I mean, I think I give it a C. Up next is a KitchenAid, and this time we're going to be using the regular metal bowl. I really like the ceramic bowl. I think it's cute, but it's really heavy. So the jury's out on the ceramic bowl. So we're going to put in our olive oil, 1/2 cup. We are going to put in our water, 2 cups, 110 degrees water. We got our salt, 2 teaspoons of salt. We got our sugar, 4 tablespoons of sugar. Now we're going to start putting in the flour. We're going to put on the pouring shield. One great thing about the KitchenAid is the pouring shield is really easy to get on. The Breville, I struggled a little bit. So we're going to put in a couple cups of flour, again, the same way. And then we are going to put in our yeast. So we're going to put it on low speed to start. I got 2 cups of flour in there. Now we're going to put in our yeast, 4½ teaspoons of yeast. And we're going to keep going with the flour, up to 6 cups. 3, 4, 5. This chute is a little small. Let's let that incorporate a little bit, and then we'll put the last cup in. And we're going to go with 1 more cup. My dough might be a little on the dry side. And you know, every batch of dough is different. Every batch you have to watch it and adjust the flour and the water depending on how dry your ingredients are. I do hear that little bit of stopping when the dough goes around. I mean, that's just It's happening with all these tilt heads. All the mixers, in fact. We're getting a little poppage, right? Let's take a look here. For the non-tilt-headed KitchenAid mixer users, make sure you lock the head down, right? Whoop. That's not good. Well, we're having a serious problem with this dough coming up over the mixer hand. Yeah, that's not a good thing. So when I knead this out, the dough feels a little better than the Breville. I just feel like it's kneaded better. I do have to knead it out to bring it to a ball, but it's smoother and I think it's just kneaded nicer. I think the action of the dough hook on the KitchenAid is a lot better. One of the things with this recipe is even though it says it can do 6 cups, this is really a 3-cup flour mixer. It was just a little too much. It was too much for both of them. One concern I have is I got a little, since the dough kept moving up above the dough hook, and this mixer's brand new out of the box, there's a little bit of grease on the mixer thing, which got into my dough. Wouldn't happen on a regular basis because I did clean it off, but this thing is right off the assembly line. And with it being too big of a recipe for it, it just kept coming up over the hook. And that is a big problem for me, the fact that it just kept coming off the hook. It needed it better, but I really am disappointed with how that worked out. So my answer to that is it's really not good for a 6-cup flour recipe. It's great for a single loaf of bread, but that is too the same with the Breville. I'm actually fairly disappointed in the KitchenAid because of how it was just moving up the thing, but I did think that it needed a lot better. So I'm going to give it a C. So for my final analysis, overall, I'm kind of disappointed just because I am a bread baker. And so we can talk about what I think that these kind of mixers are good for. So the overall look and feel of them both are great. There's a lot of color options available with the KitchenAid, a lot of attachments. It's a classic mixer that, you know, it's just a KitchenAid, right? The Breville is a sexy mixer, as someone on Facebook commented about the Breville. The main problem with it is it just doesn't have the attachments that the KitchenAid has. Don't know if the Breville plans for that in the future. It does not have a hub on it, so I would imagine that they don't. I don't know why, but I suspect at some point if Breville's going to really enter into the stand mixer market, they probably should consider coming out with a different model that could really compete with the KitchenAid. And right now it just, you know, in terms of features, it just can't do that. They both did great on whipping. We did a meringue. They both did fabulous. No problems with that. When we moved into the cookies, it was okay. We had a pretty big batch of Snickerdoodles, which is not a significantly heavy dough. It's not like a big oatmeal cookie or something with wheat. I gave a B+ to the KitchenAid and a B to the Breville. I think the Breville just really blopped around there on the tilt head. way too much. Might not damage the tilt head, but it just makes it for, it just lessens the experience of the cook. When we move into dough, this is where the rubber meets the road with stand mixers. And where you draw the line is whether or not you feel like you want to use your stand mixer to make dough. For me, I'm trying to learn to cook, and I need a stand mixer that is able to make dough so I can take advantage of the full range of things that I can do with my baking. If that's something you're not going to do at all, either of these mixers would be fine. If you may move into that in the future, or you might occasionally want to make a pizza dough or something, a single batch recipe would be fine in either of these mixers. I did a double batch of my bread machine dinner rolls, which it should be able to handle 6 cups of flour, each of these, and we really had quite a bit of issues with both of them. The KitchenAid, it just kept riding up on the dough hook, and the problem is that KitchenAid is right off of the assembly room floor, and I had a little bit of grease still on the thing where the attachment goes, and it got into my dough. That wouldn't happen on a regular basis, but it did to me in this instance. The Breville, it will stand. It jumped a little bit more on the tilt head than the KitchenAid did. But the big thing to me is it just didn't need that dough hook. Didn't get that dough moving around enough. The dough hook does move like this, and it needs that dough in the middle of it, but that dough just was stationary. It didn't move any other way. And the KitchenAid does that. And the KitchenAid, the feel of the dough, it was just better than the Breville. I gave them both a C just because the KitchenAid should be able to handle this. And I think that it moved around a little too much, and with it going up the dough hook, I kept having to, bring that sucker down, and it just didn't make for a great experience. It did the job, but frankly, a double dose, if you're going to do 2 loaves of bread, it's really going to, tax your mixer with the tilt head 5-quart. So my answer is, if you absolutely do not intend to make bread, or you only intend to make a single loaf or an occasional pizza dough, a 5-quart tilt head mixer, either the Breville or the KitchenAid will work just fine for you. If you think that you might want to move into bread making, or at least be able to do it on a more regular basis than just occasionally, I would say that a tilt head 5-quart mixer probably would not be the best option for you. You might want to look into the bowl lift. A lot of people, they wonder the difference between a tilt head and a bowl lift. The tilt head will fit under your cabinet, most cabinets, and usually the bowl lift won't. But the bowl lift doesn't have that action on the head of the mixer that just works that sucker. And if you really want to start making 2 loaves of bread or making it more frequently, you're going to have to possibly look into a bowl lift, because you don't have those issues with a bowl lift. So that's my thought on those. So really my answer is, it depends on what you want, right? I think they're both good mixers. I think that you can have a lot of fun with either one of them, but also just to know the limitations, so when you buy one, ultimately through your use of it, you're not disappointed. So you understand what your mixer is capable of and what it's not capable of. So the winner of Amy's Stand Mixer Challenge Part 2, between the KitchenAid Artisan 5-quart mixer and the Breville Scraper Mixer Pro, is the KitchenAid. Yay! It's a great little mixer. I think if you keep it within its limitations and you understand those limitations so you don't overwork it, I think the KitchenAid Artisan is a nice, good entry-level mixer, and it will get you going. If you like this video, please subscribe below and leave me a comment and a like, and visit my website at amylearnstocook.com. I'm also on Twitter and Pinterest at amylearnstocook. It is also a 5-quart mixer. It is also a tilt head mixer. It is 500 watts. How many watts is it? Which one do I get? I don't know.